Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Deborah Heiser with us. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, great. So, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Sure. So, my name is Deborah Heiser. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. I'm the author of the Mentorship Edge, and I founded and was CEO of the Mentor Project for 8 years.
So I'm curious, what inspired you to start the Mentors Project?
So the Mentor Project was inspired. It really came about organically. It used to study everything. I'm an aging specialist, and I was a researcher studying everything no one wants to have or get as they age. So dementia, depression, and all of that. And someone came to me and said, "What do we have to look forward to?" And I didn't have an answer for them that was positive. And so I started to look into that. And part of that was realizing that we have an emotional journey that nobody was talking about. So we all focus on the physical journey, and that leads to death. So that scares people. When you have a trajectory that starts at birth and you have a very steep incline and then a slow, steady decline until death, that's what people were scared of. But when you have an emotional journey, it starts at birth and it goes up and it never goes down. So I started to look at what point do we really start to feel that? And that's midlife with the stage of generativity where we're built to want to give back. So I started to talk to people who identified as mentors, like famous people. And so I asked the guy who patented how we use credit cards on the internet, and the guy who was the father of the network firewall. And Bill Cheswick, who was one of the fathers of the network firewall, said, I have no way of getting in front of kids to teach them what I know. I'm going to retire and I'm going to feel completely useless. And I kept meeting more and more people who were saying the same thing. All of these people who'd done world changing things, but weren't around kids. So we founded the Mentor Project with just 10 people, and it grew and grew and grew over those 8 years. And we started to give back. The last year was about 3.4 million in 7 countries. So we really made a lot of impact and found that people really need and want to mentor.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great origin story. Okay, so can you share a story from any of your clients?
Sure. So we had some really great programs that happened. So there was one where an artist from California, he's the guy, his name is Justin Thompson. He is the guy who draws the Snoopy. He works for Schultz Creative Studios, and he's done that all around the world. Well, we sent him to a small village in Tanzania called Sharati, and they had never been taught Western art. So he went there for about 10 days, and it was like a change of the whole village. He was set to just teach 15 kids, but when he got there, he drew a mural on the side of the school and the whole community came out. And so it ended up being like 500 people that he ended up impacting. So we went back the next year and did the same thing. And it really grew and became such an enormous thing. He was meeting with them at 4 o'clock in the morning, his time, on Zoom. They would all crowd around one computer to learn from him on Zoom once a month. And that was a beautiful story. And it didn't end there. He then went to Brooklyn, New York, and did the same thing in middle school and through New York Edge. And those students also got to learn cartooning from him as well. And so that was just one story. We've also had really big groups where we've had a lot of mentees come, like 50 at a time, to hear people like astronauts and um, people who have been, in the beginning stages of open AI and things like that, so that they could learn from some of the leaders in those fields and get inspired to do things. So people have worked on their PhD dissertations. They have, patented things. They've started companies. They've learned a new skill. And those were the things that were done with the Mentor Project while I was running it. And I think that what it showed me is that we need to stop wasting our most precious natural resources, which are the experts that we have all around us who, once they leave work or they end what they're doing, they should be still having impact in the world.
So, in your point of view, what key qualities should mentors foster to nurture real growth in their mentees?
We saw is that there needs to be a genuine connection. So, you can't just pair a person up and say, hey, here you go. Now you have a mentor. There are five key things, and I write about this in the Mentorship Edge. You need to have somebody who wants to give back, right? They have to care for someone without expecting anything in return. They have to want to do it for no money. They have to want to do it for no reward or award or anything like that. They have to, actually like each other. There has to be some kind of care there where where the mentee wants to take what the mentor is giving and the mentor has to want to give it to that mentee. There has to be trust. So the mentor has to trust that the mentee is going to take the information. They're not going to go manipulate it in a way that's going to harm the mentor in some way, and that the mentee can feel like they can be vulnerable and ask questions about things that they don't know without feeling like the person is going to judge them for not knowing things like that. And finally, there has to be a goal. So when the mentor is coming into this, if it's not a match right away, we say, tell the person, hey, you should be meeting with somebody else. That way, in the very beginning, you can sort of have a meeting, have a discussion, see if you're on the same page. Do your goals match? Do you like the person? Are you feeling like there's a relationship where you can learn from somebody and where you feel like the person is taking your information and knowledge and skills and values and that they are utilizing them the way that you want. So really it's like that. And it's as simple as like making friends. You're not friends with everybody who crosses your path. There's that spark that you get when you meet somebody and you say, I want to hang out with that person a little bit more. That's exactly how it is with mentorship. And too often people think you can just match two people up and there will be a mentorship, relationship. And it doesn't work like that. It'd be like putting you in a room and say, here's your new best friend. Go at it.
Okay, so can you talk about your book?
Sure. So I wrote the Mentorship Edge because I realized that corporations, organizations, everyone was talking about mentorship in the wrong way. They were looking at it as a relationship and mistaking it for coaching. They were conflating mentorship and coaching, sponsorship and mentorship. So mentorship became a sort of a throwaway word. And I wanted to write the book to show what it is and what it isn't, give the definition, show how it's a part of a developmental milestone in our life. We should expect to be mentoring in our lifetime and what that looks like. And I gave a lot of real life examples because mentorship kind of got hijacked by the corporate world where it's, seen as a work related activity. But mentorship has long been around before, work settings. It's how we pass down religion, values, traditions in our families, culture. And so grandmas are one of our biggest, mentors, the people who pass down family values and things. And so I talk about it from the perspective of who mentors, which is everyone, and how. So people have always said, I don't have a degree or a title, I can't mentor. And, you're never going to remember Bob the accountant, but you're going to remember everything that was passed down from your grandma or your great great grandparent. So the power is put in the wrong places oftentimes with mentorship.
Okay, so as an applied developmental psychologist, how do you see mentorship shaping personal and professional development at different life stages?
So, I'm a developmental psychologist, an applied developmental psychologist. I look at the lifespan, and most people think that once you become an adult, you stop developing and growing. But look at yourself now. I don't know your age, but are you the same as you were when you were 15?
I know. I would
Well,
say not as the same I was last year.
yes, exactly. So we continue to develop all the way until our last breath. And most people don't know what that looks like. That's what I study. I study midlife and older and all the different changes and things that happen to us emotionally, mostly is what I focus on. but how that looks in terms of physical, cognitive, and everything else that we go through as we get older. So, an example of that is I worked with someone who was in a wheelchair and he had very little ability to breathe. He had a uh, a machine that helped him to get oxygen. And I said to him, "Why and how are you happy? You're older and you can't get around." And he said, "Well, I have everything I could need and want. I have my computer. I can read. I see my grandchildren. I see my friends. I can have lunch with people all the time." And he was genuinely happy. But most of us think of ourselves in a very, very one dimensional way, that we are what our physical body is. And so I look at how we have all of those aspects through of our lives, cognitive, emotional, physical, all the way from midlife all the way through the end of life, and how we change and develop. And the surprising thing is we're happier as we get older. We're more fulfilled as we get older. We feel better about ourselves, when we're 50 than we were when we were 20.
What do you think? Why is that?
What's that?
Why is that?
Because imagine when you're in your 20s, you're in the identity stage, you're figuring out who you are. And there's a lot of hope and excitement about that, but there's also a lot of anxiety about that. You're saying to yourself, am I going to get that job? Am I going to get that degree? Am I going to get that? It's always, am I going to? And you're finding your friends, you're finding your partner, you're finding maybe the job. And there's a lot of, you know, instability at that time. So even though it might be fun and exciting, you're feeling that insecurity there. You don't have that when you're 50. You've done it. You know who your friends are. You feel comfortable with yourself. You aren't finding your identity anymore in the same way. You might be honing it or expanding it a little bit, but you've got a closer knit of friends, fewer but better. You are around the people that you care about, and you're not comparing yourself with others in the same way that you are when you're 20, when you're supposed to be doing that, because you're saying, how can I navigate to get to this point in life that I want to get to? You're already there when you're 50. That's when you want to start giving back to others. That's when you want to make your mark in the world. And that brings you a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment, because you get to say, I really do matter. All those boxes I checked for all those decades really meant something. My mom pushing me to go do something. You were doing everything when you were 20 for somebody else, to meet the standards of society, your parents, or whoever, or whatever. Now you're doing it for you. You get to say, what boxes do I want to create for myself? And so that's what makes us happy.
By the way, you're also like working on creating a new company, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about that.
Sure, it's called My Legacy Tree. And after running the Mentor Project, I was able to see that so many people wanted to know their impact, that they actually matter, that their footprint meant something. So people would mentor, but they wouldn't know they mentored. I talked to so many people and I would say, have you ever mentored? They'd say, no, I've never have. And it turned out after a conversation, I found out they had. Or people would be approached by someone and say, they would find out that person said that they mentored them. And they would say, I didn't even know that. I just maybe helped you out with something. I didn't know that that led to something huge. So most of us want to know that we make a difference, that we matter. And my legacy tree is there to create a map for a person to see who they've mentored, who they've connected with. And that is going to lead to a really amazing opportunity for them, not only to connect with those people that they've mentored or have been mentored by, but to see it in like a family tree kind of a way. And that way they can see their impact. You can then quantify the impact. How many people have you impacted? And then if you can see where they then are mentoring others, you're able to see how many levels that goes beyond that person. So imagine if I mentored you and then I said, "Oh, okay, I mentored Atul, okay." But then I find out that you did something with someone else. And then I get to see how many generations that goes, meaning how many different people. This is how you can see a person in the family lineage that might be passing down a tradition. Why is it that you eat the same meal at every family holiday? You can figure that out. That's mentorship. So it's quantifying that, and a person can then see how they fit in with all the other people that they have in their lives.
Okay, so what has been the most surprising lesson you have learned through your own mentoring journey?
The most surprising thing is that did not realize how many people are eager to give up their time, give up resources, give away their expertise to others. The Mentor Project was founded on $547, and we were able to operate with everyone volunteering their time and people giving back. Mentoring, you're not paid to mentor. If someone is saying that they're paying a mentor, that's not a mentor. But everyone did everything for free. And I never realized how many people have that desire, that people are like kind of screaming to be able to give back. I did not know that. It's something that I had to uncover. But once I did, it was like a runaway snowball that just kept going and going. That was a surprise to me.
So, for our listeners who want to know more about you or want to connect with you, where can they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, I write for Psychology Today. You can find me on all social media channels and at deborahheiser.com. And I guess those are most of the places you can find me.
And where can people get your book, like The Mentorship Edge?
You can get it anywhere you buy books, and it's in all formats. It's an audio. So if you like podcasts, audio might be your thing, but you can get it in hard copy, Kindle, and in audio from anywhere you buy books. So Amazon or anywhere else, any bookstores, libraries, it's all over.
Okay, Deborah, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It was really fun chatting with you.
It was fun chatting with you too. Thank you.
You're welcome.